let's get a little bit more advanced. Take our Ferris wheel clip, drag it into the new composition button. And now let's just select the part where we want to track. So we're just going to go until the Ferris wheel is almost out of the frame. Right, we can go after the Ferris wheel is out of the frame, actually. That's fine. Go right there. And then for the beginning, let's just start around 5 seconds. That will work. Whoops. Take the end, drag in, trim comp to work area. Now in our tracker, click track motion. Okay, you can see that this video clip is a lot more complicated than the other one. First, the background isn't a clean blue sky. There's lots going. And then the camera is moving. So we're moving in space. Things are getting larger. So that's going to affect how we're tracking. And that's why we have scale. And there might even be some subtle rotation of the camera. It looks pretty clean, but it's hard to see from, the naked human eye. Let me just show you what not to do. So if I zoom in and let's zoom in just a little bit. Let's take our track point. Let me just put it, say I want to track the middle of this Ferris wheel right there. Now let's zoom out and let's just analyze. Okay, that actually did a very decent job of tracking that middle point. I thought it wasn't going to do as good a job, but you'll notice now, let's actually create our new null object, layer, new, null. Let's edit our target to make sure it's the null object 10, that's good, and then click apply. X and Y, yes. Now let's just add some text. We'll just say movie title. And let's just change this to Helvetica, standard, and make it bold so we can see it a little bit better. Let's also add a stroke. So just by clicking the stroke pixels to the right. And if you want to change the color of the stroke, just swap this fill stroke over here. If you want, click the stroke color, and we can change it to really any color we want. But I'm going to leave it at black. Now let's go, we're at the start, so let me put this right here at the front. Let me attach it to the null object, and then let's play. So that doesn't look that good, to be honest. So it works, but it doesn't look like it's actually in the space of the video. And I want this title to actually look like it's sitting right there in front of the Ferris wheel. And the reason why it doesn't do that is because it's not affecting the scale of it. It's staying the same size here and here before it goes out of frame. So that's why what we want to do when we're tracking motion like this, we want to make sure that we have the rotation and scale selected. So let me just turn off the title right now, and I can leave that null object or I can delete it. I'll just delete it. Now if I click Ferris wheel, let me just click track motion again. All right, so let me zoom in to 100%. We can put this back on the middle of our Ferris wheel. I'm going to make the box just a little bit bigger so it has a little bit more detail. And then I'm going to click rotation and scale. You'll notice that what happened when I clicked either one of those is that a tracker 2 point popped up. I know it's hard for you to see. There's lots of detail here, but we have tracker point 1 that I set and then tracker point 2. When I click and drag this, there's this line that's attached to the track point 1. The way this works is that by tracking 2 points in your video, After Effects is able to track both rotation and scale because it's seeing what's happening between those 2 points, comparing those 2 points to each other. So what I found that works well is if we want to have this text or a layer within your video clip and your camera's moving, I like to find 2 points that are in relatively the same plane of field, so the same distance from the camera. So I'm not going to pick something in the background like this building right there unless I want to put my text back in the building and track the motion of the building. then I would put both points back there and add my text back there. But if I want to put the text right in front of this Ferris wheel, I'm going to track the motion of this Ferris wheel. And then maybe let's find something else that has a lot of sort of contrast. This car right here has a lot of contrast. See that car? It's white, there's dark, there's also some green, so that helps with another kind of brightness. And then let's zoom back out. So now when I analyze this, and let me actually go ahead and just click and add a null object. Usually I like adding the new null object beforehand. It doesn't really matter, but when I click edit target, now it's selecting the movie title. I want to make sure it's on the null 11. Okay, let's analyze. So it's analyzing both points. Seems like it's doing a relatively good job. Now, you'll notice right then, whoops, okay, right there too. Once this car was out of the video frame, it stopped working. The tracker point just stuck at the bottom of the frame. And then right here, right when that middle of the Ferris wheel is out of frame, it just sticks at the bottom of the frame too. And that's just because After Effects does not know what to do at that point. It's out of the frame. It doesn't know where to track. So all of these track points after those are out of the frame are kind of worthless. And I'll show you why in just a second. So now let me turn on my movie title. Go back to our composition. Actually, let's go into our layer. Make sure we apply this tracker to our target. So click apply. Both X and Y, yes. Okay, so now we're back in our composition. Let's parent our movie title to null 11. Let's make it a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to go into the character, make it a little bit smaller, and we'll just set it right sort of in front of the Ferris wheel like so. Maybe just kind of hovering in this sort of open field area. Now when we play through it, it actually gets bigger as the camera gets closer. But look what happened after that point. So after that car leaves the frame that we were trying to track, whoops, this goes haywire. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is manually adjust these things. Or if we want, we can move this title closer to us. So if we move it closer, say right there, and then we play through, it's going to be off the frame by the time that this car right here is off the frame. So now it should be fine, but after that it goes haywire, so we'll make sure that we clip this clip of the text to this point. So after that, it's gone for good. So that's pretty good, right? So there's two different ways you can do that. You can move the text up, but say we don't want to do that. Say we want the text to be sort of back closer to those cars like so. Then what do? Well, at this point right here, when it goes haywire, and I can start to see it go haywire right here, what I'll do is go into the null object, press U to bring up the keyframes, and see we have keyframes for position, scale, and rotation. And just so you know that the scale is increasing, here it's at 100%, here it's almost at 200%. So it really is growing while the camera is moving over it. So here is right there is where it goes haywire. So what I'll do is just delete all of these keyframes up to that point. So I'm dragging over all of them and deleting them. And then what I'm going to have to do is frame by frame, or sometimes you can just go like a few frames ahead until you think it would be off camera and move it down with position. So if I just zoom in here really close, so that moved too fast. So I'm going to extend this. And you can see it starts to get smaller, which I don't want. So here I'm also going to set a keyframe for just a little bit bigger, maybe like 200%. That's pretty good, maybe a little bit bigger. 205. Okay, that looks pretty good. So you can see that I don't necessarily have to add keyframes for every position to get that motion now. One thing you might notice as you work on your own projects is that there might be some subtle little movements that you don't like. Now, there's a couple things you can do. You could either try retracking the motion to see if you can get a cleaner motion, or you can go into the individual keyframes and fix it, or sometimes deleting keyframes works. So sometimes as I'm going through this, I might see that there was one little spot where it jumped to the left a little bit. Maybe just delete that keyframe. Now, say I wanted a title back here in the buildings in the background. Or maybe I decide, oh, I actually want this movie title just to be up here, and I want it to kind of move with the building. Well, when I do that and I play through, it doesn't look that good because it looks like this title is in the plane of the Ferris wheel. It's not growing at the same rate. It's growing faster than the buildings are growing in size in the background. So if you want to move your title, make sure that you're tracking points in the space where you want that title to be. Does that make sense? I hope it does. If not, just ask me any questions in the Q&A tab of the course. So let's put this back here. In the next lesson, what I'm going to be doing is adding that shadow and making this look a little bit more real. But hopefully you've enjoyed this lesson. Now you know how to use the tracker to track both position, rotation, and scale.